all on Friday. Well done.
Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. Welcome. Today is Monday, March 18th, 2024. I believe the spring or vernal equinox is tomorrow at about 9 o'clock or so. This is our weekly Community Planning Infrastructure and Resources work session. I'd like to again welcome everyone. I'm joined by my commissioner colleagues, Kristen Stevens from District 2, Jody Shattuck McNally from District 3, and of course our county manager, Lorinda Volker. Thank you all for being here. We have a few items on the agenda. I've been instructed to turn it over directly to our Department of Natural Resources Director. Please introduce yourself for the record, sir, and nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. I'm Dalen Figgs, Director for Larimer County's Department of Natural Resources. It's good to see everyone today. So this afternoon, I just want to take a few minutes and walk through our work plan for 2024 and some of the key projects we have this year. And we've split it up in a couple of different ways. You have a kind of a larger printout with more detail than we're going to provide sort of verbally today. The ones we're going to talk about verbally are really those key projects you'll likely see come back to this board from time to time for direction or approval processes and things of that nature. But the larger printout is a bit more detailed and a little more depth of some projects we have going, and happy to answer any questions you may have on that larger list as well as what we'll present today. And I do want to emphasize a couple of things. One is the list that you have in front of you and what we'll talk about today are really those key, highly visible projects. Most of our work, as you know, is our day in, day out work that's done by, the 50 staff with DNR of keeping the bathrooms clean, the grass mowed, the places safe, the natural resources moving forward. That often goes unspoken about because it's not the big shiny project of just getting the work done on a 9-to-5 basis. So I really want to start there. That's the core of what we do. That's the backbone of the department, is all that work that sort of just happens. What we'll see today are really just some of those key projects that are really that outward sort of facing, where the community will really get a chance to see the work of the department and how we reinvest back in, to the work we do. I want to start with our strategic plan compass, and this is really how we've approached our work plan, for 24. There's 6 key areas, and each of these key areas actually represents people within the department that work in areas of how we provide leadership, create this positive culture. And so of these 6 teams, this generated really our 2024 sort of project list. And you'll notice the icons on your larger sheet, and then as we walk through here, tie back to those key strategic plan priority areas through the use of icons. And so we're going to break this up a little bit. Megan's going to chat a little bit about some of the open space properties. Corey's going to jump in on some of our engagement, and then I'll talk a little bit about our permitting projects and things of that nature going forward. So for here, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Megan and let her introduce herself for the record.
All right. Good afternoon. Megan Flanagan with the Natural Resources Department. And we wanted to share a little bit of what's happening out at Chimney Hollow Open Space. I know we've toured it with you all, and we have a tour coming up with our joint boards and some of you in July. And this is a picture showing some of the progress that Northern Water is making on the dam at the site. And we have kicked off just recently our management planning process. We expect that process will take about 6 months. We have a technical advisory committee that includes a lot of different experts in various natural resource expertise, different recreation user groups. Our key partners, the City of Loveland holds a conservation easement on the property, for example. Northern Water will be a member of that committee, and really engage them around some of the future uses of the property, the management of the site into the future. We'll also do a robust public outreach that'll include public meetings, a virtual engagement platform, and some other ways that the public can engage around what they'd like to see in the future on the site. When really great thing that presents itself at Chimney Hollow Open Space is because the reservoir will be mostly full, it won't fluctuate as much as the CBT reservoirs. We have some opportunity to look at some ways to provide different types of accessibility. So, for example, ADA boat ramps are a little more feasible in a situation like that where it doesn't have to be pulled in and out as frequently as it might at CBT reservoirs. So we're excited to look at how this new reservoir and open space fit into the rest of our system, what gaps might exist that Chimney Hollow might uniquely fill, and then what some of the demand is from the community around access to the site. So that plan will go through this year, and then we'll probably take 2 or 3 years to build out the infrastructure. So whatever trail system, parking areas, boat ramps come from that plan. And we anticipate an opening concurrent with Northern Water finishing their construction around 2027, maybe the end of 2027.
And Megan, do you have an estimate of our cost to add the public infrastructure?
Yeah, we do have a budget estimate for both the Chimney Hollow site, but also the south end of Carter Lake Reservoir. In our master plan there, we've identified a second parking area that would access through a trail into Chimney Hollow. So there'd be a couple ways you could get into Chimney Hollow through that. And in total, it's around between 7 and 8 million. So we do plan to apply for a Great Outdoors Colorado grant. GOCO was a key partner in the acquisition of Chimney Hollow Open Space, and in some conversations, we know for them it'll be a regional draw and a similar to Heaven's Door, a real hallmark of our system that they want to be a partner into. So moving on to Heaven's Door.
One moment, Megan.
Yeah.
Before you move on, I just
Yeah.
want to check with my commissioner colleagues. Do you folks have any questions, comments, observations regarding the Chimney Hollow Reservoir project? Yes, Commissioner?
Yeah, what kind of trail system do you think will be there? I mean, will it be fairly extensive? Is it pretty small? What does that look like? Or do you have ideas about that yet?
Yeah, that's a lot what we'll vet through the public process. But by comparison, Chimney Hollow Open Space is about half the size of Horsetooth Mountain Open Space. And so there's about 100 miles about 30 miles of trail at Horsetooth Mountain Open Space, which, is probably denser than we'd like to see at a place like Chimney Hollow, just to balance out our goals for protecting habitat and not fragmenting the site. But we'll be going through that public process with the question of, what type of a trail system, what kinds of visitor experiences are people looking for, and how can we achieve that with a well-built, sustainable trail system.
Will those public processes be starting, do you know when those will be starting? I guess if you want build out in 2027, it's probably in the next year or so that you're planning to do that?
Yeah, actually this year. So over the next 6 months with our management plan process, we'll be reaching out to the public.
I'm sure
with
there'll
the
be a
website.
lot of people eager to help you.
We hope so.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
bet they are. Thank you.
Yeah, great.
Thanks, Commissioner. I have a quick question, and that is, would you remind us again the type of boating that will be allowed at this particular reservoir?
Yeah, there are some sideboards at Chimney Hollow Open Space that we'll plan within, particular to use of the reservoir, because the acquisition of Chimney Hollow was in partnership with Northern Water, and we have a 30-year recreation lease with them and an intergovernmental agreement that stipulates wakeless boating. So there can be motorized boating, but it's wakeless. We can have body contact with the water, so there could be swimming activities. There'll be a boat ramp. There could be boat docks, which is what we're anticipating as well.
Thank you for answering my question. I believe we can move on.
Okay, great. Well, we are really excited about Chimney Hollow because it'll be our next open space that will open to the public. And then following that, on our docket is our Heaven's Door property, which, we say formerly known as Heaven's Door because we do hope this year to spend some time with a naming process and engage the community around a future name for this property. But we wanted to share with you, we've been doing a lot of work at it. Heaven's at heaven's door. None of us can stop ourselves from saying it, but so hence the need for a new name. But we've just finished removing all the buildings on site. So if you recall, there was a residence and a handful of associated outbuildings, and those have all been removed and repurposed. I think over, was it 105,000 pounds of material was diverted from the landfill. Most of that was repurposed, so we were able to, like if you picture all the fixtures in the house, we were able to either sell or donate those to places like Habitat for Humanity. We also engaged a lot of local students to come and learn about construction through deconstruction of the buildings on site. We were able to sell some of the outbuildings. If you recall, there was a tough shed on site that was fairly new. We were able to deconstruct that and sell it to be reconstructed off-site with a private individual. And we've been doing a lot of work towards restoring that footprint. We've been removing Russian olive. I think Casey can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in the last few weeks we've removed all the Russian olive from the property, which was a big lift because there were over 100 of them. We've been doing a lot of weed management. Some of the valley just had, over time, seen a lot of weed incursion in the site. And then our big news is we applied for a Great Outdoors Colorado grant, and we're awarded $1.5 million as a reimbursement to the acquisition of the property. And that's great news for us because we, as you know, have a lot of priorities in our land acquisition lists that we can apply those dollars to, hopefully fairly quickly. Commissioner?
Yes, please.
I'm just trying not to jump up and down my seat here. I'm so excited. First off, I see it listed here on the Blue Button property, but that's not going to be the final name. That's just, how should we refer to it right now? Is my first question. I have a couple of questions.
Yeah, I think that is how we're trying to kind of move it. It's in our Blue Mountain priority area. So until we get a name, we just don't want Heaven's Door to stick as it started to, even with us.
Okay, so that's great. I really thrilled I could attend the centennial celebration on Friday with you all, and glad they still have that. And I had a lot of commissioners from around the state texting me, congratulations, this is awesome. So I just want to convey, others were very excited for us, and I'm really proud that you went for that grant and you received it. Congratulations, it's huge and such a great source of pride for all of us, but for me, just being part of that and listening to all the wonderful things that's said about all of you and our county, it's just really heartwarming. I'm really glad to hear about Russian olives and some weed management, as you all know. I don't like them around my property either. They're kind of invasive little evil things sometimes. But I just want to thank you for doing that as well. I'm curious about. You did some surveying of birds and wetlands, and is that survey done, and what have you learned? And also, have we done any indigenous or archaeological surveys, and what have we found, or is that kind of not to be shared because of sensitivity? I'm just curious about that because I have been hearing a lot from the people of the community. They're very wondering and curiosity about what we're doing and how's it going. So.
Yeah, thank you. Those are great questions. We have been doing a lot of resource inventories, and some of those, the birds, wetlands, are still ongoing. So I don't have an answer yet, but after this season, I think we'll know a lot more about the property. We did do a forest management plan that we contracted through the State Forest Service, Colorado State Forest Service, and we hope to actually implement the first phase of that this year. The property's in actually excellent shape from a forest management standpoint, and it's not heavily forested, as you can see from the picture, just in those upper northeast slopes or northwest slopes. So it should be a pretty easy lift to get that achieved. And then from an archaeological standpoint, we did reach out to CSU Archaeology Department just to learn more from they have a lot of information from the state of what's in the area and what might be expected. And while there are some really amazing archaeological finds in the region, more north on Sylvandale and some other properties, there really isn't anything they expect we would find out at the site. So we will do some inventories over time, but there's nothing pressing that is sort of out there that anyone knows about.
Well, thank you for all of that. As you know, I'll probably have a million more questions, and I'll try to contain my excitement, but just congratulations to you all. I just want to congratulate you on this wonderful recognition, and just thanks for the work and the progress, and really appreciate the reclamation and the, deconstruction, but making sure that didn't end in the landfill, and providing, workforce development, all the things you did. It's just really outstanding work. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. The last thing I'll mention about the property is we are going to start offering some public access opportunities starting this summer through staff-guided tours. And we'll do those in a really deliberate way that might help inform our future management of the site and types of experiences and opportunities the public wants to see. So we'll have a lot more available about that on our website and how people can sign up and join us on the site at key points in time.
Are you done with discussion of this particular open space?
Unless
Then,
there's any
before we
questions.
proceed,
Yeah.
Commissioner Stevens, anything you want to ask or comment on?
Excuse me, I am also excited, I think we all are, about the GOCO grant, so congratulations. Sorry I couldn't join you on Friday, but I hope, unfortunately, I think it was a Zoom event instead of which, those are all too frequent in our world, but yeah, it's great news, and it's, obviously, we have more dollars to repurpose in other ways, so just wanted to say congratulations. And I'm excited that there will be self-guided tours this summer, because I think, people are excited to get in and see, we've had the privilege of being able to see that space, but a lot of folks haven't, just from a distance. So I think that'll generate excitement and probably a lot of conversation about what we want to do. So good luck to you all, and thank you very much.
Thank you. And yeah, we're anxious to show it off as well. It's quite a gem, and it'll be great to have the community go out and enjoy it and spend some time out there with us.
And I also wish to express my excitement. And perhaps most importantly, I think the community is very excited. I think we did some sharing of the Facebook posts that Corey put out, and it's gotten a lot of good responses. So that's wonderful. I do have a question. Can you please remind us, I seem to recall on the hogback there were some smaller parcels that had homes on them. What did we finally decide? I think we were going to sell those properties. Could you give us a bit of an update on that, Megan, please?
Yeah, thank you. When we acquired the property, we had retained with you all the idea that over time we might divest of, there were 4 separate 35-acre parcels. One had the main house and all the outbuildings, most of the outbuildings. Another of those parcels had a second building up on the hogback. And since that time, we've decided to just remove all the buildings and retain all the land in our ownership. And that really came through a lot of good conversations with the Open Lands Advisory Board and you all realizing the amount we would have recouped given the condition of the buildings probably didn't warrant the loss of that land and having more neighbors, encroached into the open space.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next.
I'll turn it back over to Dalen.
Yeah. All right. So the next one, we pride ourselves on financial sustainability, and we are always sort of polishing our budget and leaning on technology where appropriate. And one of the things we are, actually the RFP went out, I think officially last week, to really modernize how we issue and track permits within our system. Right now, it's a fairly antiquated way. We write a date on a sticky note and hand it to somebody out the window and collect $10. We're trying to move to where it's a bit more automated, hopefully based on license plate readers. So if you drive in, somewhere in the system, it'll know if you have purchased a park pass for that day, or if you have an annual pass holder. If you're not, we can send you a reminder that you probably should do that. And so there's a lot of technologies we can rely on to one, make it just a better visitor experience. So your first thing you do when you come into our properties now is you have to give somebody $10 or buy a pass. We're hoping to automate that, so you just drive in, park, and go enjoy yourself and pay before you get there or have a pass. We're not quite sure what it looks like yet. It's a little daunting, to be honest. It's a big jump for us. This is such a foundational piece of our department and our fiscal responsibility and our fiscal sustainability of getting this right. And so we have a great team working on it. IT's been heavily involved and a great partner in it. So I'm really excited about it. The idea right now is to have it implemented by our kind of end of first quarter in '25, roughly that time frame, assuming all goes well in the creation of it. As always, connectivity is a challenge for us. Some of our properties are remote. We don't have, fiber to them. We don't have very good cell coverage. So we have some issues to work through, and I think we'll find the right vendor through the process. They're all aware of that. And this will be really sort of key in helping us, modernize that system and really make a better visitor experience overall and create maybe a fiscally more streamlined way for us to continue operating. The other thing we want to do this year, and I know we've talked about this in the past, is we build financial models to sort of predict into the future about how we manage our funds today. We know that we can overextend ourselves with operating budgets if we're not careful, and so those add a little bit this year, it adds next year, it's a cumulative impact, sort of the snowball down the hill kind of analogy. Our budget's changed, we know more about how our budget's operating, our visitor patterns. We know, there's been some changes in general fund, and all of those really needs us, is at a point where we really need to recreate and rebuild that 25-year financial model to really help us guide our decisions into the future. So we're going to be working on that the second and third quarter with the idea of really getting it polished out and ready to bring back to the board for a conversation. It also helps us lay out strategies, not just for buying properties, but for when we open them to the future, to the public in the future, and how that process works out. All of them have short-term and long-term fiscal impacts. So we'll do that again this year as well.
Any comments or questions, colleagues? Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm curious, we have, looks like 2 in the immediate future. Now, when I say immediate, it's not soon enough for me, but those properties, then it costs more. And I know some people were like, well, you buy all these properties and why do we pay fees, and trying to, still do that education. And I hope we'll continue to help with that, to understand it's not just you buy the dirt and people go walk on it. There's maintenance and all that stuff. But also, when we have these properties, what is their approach to opening them? Will it be everything has to be in place and is what we see that's the final piece of it, or are we still going to look at some stage opening of things, like we'll start with maybe this and then open up and do more as we go along? Or is it, what is your philosophy overall for a new property? Does it have to be, everything has to be ready to go before you open the whole thing, or is it a kind of a phased approach to opening it?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and my preference over the years has been to have it all in place when it's opened, and though that can vary. And the reason I kind of lean in that direction is, people love to explore properties, and if you build them a trail, 99% of the time they're going to stay on the trail. And they can explore the property really with us helping to guide that. If absent that, people still may want to explore, and it's kind of hard to pull them back. So my preference is always, if we can build it fully before we open, that's the preferred outcome. We can do it the other way, and I have been involved with properties that have had a stepped opening, where it's, it takes a while to build a trail system, and we build the best trails of anywhere I've ever been, and it takes a while to do that. And so if we hit a capacity component, it may be that we build out, a major section of trail open and then continue to build trails. We'll have to kind of see how it all plays itself out into the future, but that's always an option out there as well. If we get the parking lots, the key components, safe entry, safe exit, restroom facilities, and enough of a trail system to make it, enjoyable, there's ways to add to it.
Thank you for that. And so I figure also it's the infrastructure for like the turn lanes and stuff, and the one up to Chimney Hollow is that upper entrance with the turn lane that's in there. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we're with engineering's help, we're in contact with CDOT to really better understand how that looks. It may not be as heavy a lift as we initially thought, but we just don't know yet. And I'm open to changing the entry point into Heaven's Door from where it is to maybe a place with a little better sight lines, but we still need to work through that as well. There's also some permitting with the Hanson Canal and the Bureau of Reclamation that we're working on as well. So all of those are underway. they have long lead times, as you can imagine. And so we start those early on.
Thank you. And I apologize, it's just I drive by it almost weekly, so I apologize, but
Yeah.
when I see it so much, it's like, I can't wait. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you for your insightful questions, Commissioner. Thank you. I think we can now move on to the next area.
Yeah, Ms.
I don't know if
Corey's.
that's Dalen or Corey. Engagement, equity, and access.
Yes. Hi, everybody. Corey Johnston, Communications Supervisor for Natural Resources. Great to be here today and talk to you a little bit about what we're looking at within our public engagement team for this year. We always take a diversified approach when we think about engagement. And my summary today is really looking at some key programs that are focusing on equity and access in the outdoors. Number one out of the gates, can you believe this? The Discover Pack is moving into its third year. So we are in partnership with all the libraries within the county, moving that forward again this year. We had 910 checkouts last year, which on average is about 2 to 3 packs every single day in a year floating around our system, which is pretty awesome. Another part of authentic engagement is really understanding our visitors, who they are, why they're coming, why they're not coming. And we had 2 efforts at the close of 2023 that really helped draw some frameworks for us around those questions. Number one, we repeated our Lands Our Futures survey, which was a statistically valid regional survey to better understand how Larimer County residents want to recreate, desire to recreate, how they want us to acquire lands, land management practices in general. A specific note, and why it's in this section of the presentation today, is that we asked direct questions in this go-round about why visitors may not be using our parks and open spaces. And so we're definitely going to be using that as the results become clearer on how that's going to definitely help how we change our practices or our programs. The results of that survey are expected to come out this spring, so very, very shortly. Secondly, we completed our first visitor satisfaction feedback study this last summer called Rate Your Day. And this feedback program was modeled after a Yelp, as you have all seen, the 5-star rating system. We implemented it last summer from July to October. And it was a pilot project. It was something that we did fully in-house. And while it wasn't statistically valid, we had about 780 respondents for that throughout the summer. It gave us a pulse on how satisfied our visitors are as they come into our parks and open spaces. Not only on satisfaction, but also how welcome they are and how safe do they feel when they come to our spaces. So we received about an average of 4.5-star rating last summer, and 93% of the respondents who filled out the feedback form stated that they were feeling welcome and that they felt safe on our property. So our team was very happy with those initial results. We currently are working towards some really site-based improvements based on that feedback from last year right now, and we'll be implementing that this summer. And then we are actively working on our campaign for this year and hope to roll that out in June.
How about we try, why don't you finish up, and I'm sure we'll have some questions or comments.
Okay, sounds good. Some other efforts that we're really using to leverage our ability to bolster equity and access in our open spaces in the outdoors. We can't do it alone, so it's really looking at community partnerships. How can we expand what we provide through our partnerships in the community? Our small grants program, I think, is one example of how we demonstrate that this can work really well. We, this year, have kind of scrubbed those requirements and actually added in those funding criteria, I think is the best term, to actually have something that says about equity and access. So if you're a nonprofit working towards that, we were looking for those types of projects. Members of the public engagement team and lots of members of our department are incorporated and integrated into many regional groups, whether that's sitting on the DEIA subcommittee of our NOCO Places group, the Larimer County Engagement Alignment team here locally, internally. NOCO Beat is another group, environmental education group that we're involved in. All of those aspects help us to kind of expand our network within the goals of equity and access. And finally, I think I'd be remiss to not say that engagement and communications works hand in hand together to advance these goals. And we do a lot of work, and we're going to continue to do this work this year in translation of all of our external collaterals, whether that's kiosk signage or brochures or flyers that you might see on bathrooms. And then in addition to that, looking at how we can continue to integrate our platform system, our engagement platform system in all of our projects. It has really proven to be a great tool to not only receive feedback, but also respond to our community. So these are just some of the areas outside of our regular planning processes that we're going to be putting forward in '24. And yeah, I would just like to thank you for your support in helping us move this important work forward.
Thank you. Well done, Corey, colleagues. Commissioner Shattuck McNally.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Congratulations. I remember that 3 years ago when we wanted to help you kind of sponsor that launch. It's really exciting to see that it's still consistently being used at that high level. So well done. Very excited about that. And I wanted to ask about Rate Your Day because I actually participated in that and also encouraged people that came up and were sharing what a great day they had. I'm trying to get them on there to do it as well. So I'm not surprised at the high rating. I'm curious, between you started it, you said May to October, did it kind of phase out as not as many responses towards October? Did people kind of get excited about it, but maybe some of us have been using it a few times, maybe didn't do as active, so.
What we found, great question, and it was, given that it was our first year, it was like, how the response was going to work throughout the campaign. What we found was that the challenge lied more not so much the time of year, but more capturing people as they come off an outdoor experience and not being able to directly invite them into the feedback. It was so passive, and I didn't feel like it was passive because we had posters out, we were social media, we had it blasted everywhere. But when people come off the trail, they want to go home. They don't want to even do a 2-second feedback form. So when we made that recognition early on in the campaign, we were able to directly connect to our campers through the reservation system. And once we were able to learn how to do that and actually connect with them, each month we had a good flush of feedback that we were hearing. So it was pretty steady, I would say, once we figured out like, ooh, we need to shift this a bit and work within the systems that we had.
My other question, if I might mind, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to make sure I understand the acronym. I think I know because I'm on the NOCO Places meeting, but the DEIA, because we say EDI here, and I just want to make sure it's not confusing. It's kind of the same word, but A is for access, correct?
Yes, accessibility.
Accessibility.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
inclusion, equity, and diversity.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
I went backwards there.
Again, well done. Appreciate all of the work that you're doing. And I have to say, overall, people that I talked to 6 years ago who maybe felt like they weren't being heard or listened to, those same group of people are telling me a direct opposite, how much they feel included and listened to and how much they are having great experiences. And like they talk about the No Bad Trail. So I just wanted to commend you all for your work because I feel like it's a complete different kind of feedback I get now. And I just want to thank you for that.
Excellent, thank you.
Commissioner Stevens.
Yeah, well, thank you for doing this work. I think this is really important. The equity pieces is huge because there are a lot of people that use these spaces. We know that they are well-loved and well-used. And yet, are there people that are being excluded? So I love that you asked the question about why people might not be using the open spaces, because I think that's good to sort of get it. We can imagine what people's barriers are, but until people tell us, we don't really know that for sure. And we don't want to create a solution where that's maybe not the right solution. So I always think about transportation. I think that's an issue for some people. I would assume it is, but I don't know for sure. So, I think about young people that, not at the driving age, can't afford a car, maybe right? I mean, a lot of these places still have to be accessed by cars. And as cars become less and less affordable, like how do we move into kind of thinking about transportation to those spaces? But I love that we're digging in and thinking about how to do this work in that way. So that's, I really, really appreciate that you're doing that and look forward to hearing some of the results. So, yeah, I mean, I think that we'll figure out ways to do that better. And as I think about the people that are going to be taking care of these spaces, so as I get older, I think a lot about, who's going to continue to love these spaces and how important it is that our community gets more diverse, that young people have that opportunity to be in those spaces, because once you get to experience them, you know how special they are and you have that desire to protect. And I'm not saying anything, everybody's nodding. I know we're all in agreement here, but that weighs on my mind as I think about how we make this something that people want to do into the future and have that same passion and that same sense of stewardship. So good work, and thank you, and let us know how we can support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, that ends our presentation today, so
I may have a question.
you may. Sorry.
No need to be sorry. I usually wait until it's my turn. I think they're easy questions. One, regarding the rate your day, I wonder if there was any data that showed any perhaps variations or trends regarding satisfaction depending on, the location. That's one question. Like if it was Devil's Backbone or Horsetooth or something like that.
We tried to not drill down so far. We did learn that the respondents were about 60% reservoir, 40% open spaces. We tried to keep those buckets kind of big. Yeah, but we did not filter it down to the actual site per se.
Is that something that might make sense in the future, perhaps?
Could, very well, yeah. The system actually would allow that.
Okay. Well, thank you, Corey. Then my other question, sort of a ancillary question, and that is, I noticed in our newly minted internal sustainability newsletter, which was really great, there was a reference to a volunteer opportunity on Earth Day, which I believe is April 20th, 8 a.m. to 2. Can you share very quickly what that is, and do we have to go to the link, or if we want to do that, we can just tell you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we will be doing kind of an open volunteer project. There will be, I think it's at multiple sites where we're going to be doing litter cleanup. Probably at 4 or 5 different sites, I believe. And then we are also going to be doing a trail maintenance work. And I think that's at Horsetooth.
And the best way is to perhaps go to the link and sign up.
Yeah, go
I'll
to the
try
link and
remember
sign
this.
up. And that should be on our front kind of homepage of DNR's website and our special event calendar.
Anything that you can do to make it easier for us, or at least me. But no, thank you very much. I think now we can move on to our next topic. I believe we should invite Casey Cisneros to come on up and give us an update on our weed control enterprise and some proposed changes to our rates. Thank you, Megan and Corey and Mr. Director. Yeah, you get to hang out.
So just to kick the topic off, we want to share with you a little bit about our Larimer County Weed Enterprise Group. And this is our group within our Natural Resources Department that does work for hire for vegetation management, weed control, restoration type work throughout the county. So it's really an incredible service we can offer because we can work on a large watershed scale with numerous partners, larger land management agencies like the Forest Service, our own Road and Bridge Department. We do all the right-of-way weed management on county roads, CDOT, Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and many, many others. And we do charge on a per-hour basis to do this work, and we have established rates that we've come to over the years to adjust. And so that's why we're here today. We want to talk to you a little bit about a needed rate increase to keep this program sustainable, and Casey will go ahead and outline what we're thinking.
Great. Good afternoon. Casey Cisneros, Larimer County Land Stewardship Manager. And as Megan was alluding to, back in 2018, that was the last time that we came to the Board of County Commissioners for a larger bump in the hourly enterprise rates. And I think at that time it was about 16%. And in 2018, it also gave us the discretionary ability for the Director of Natural Resources to use the Consumer Price Index as a measurement to increase the enterprise rates, the hourly enterprise rates. On average, that's about 3%. And the CPI has not been keeping up with the costs of operations. Our county our county allocations have been increasing, and there's also been some significant increases based on staffing and trying to get certain staff up to market value. And so in 2023, we did realize a net loss within the enterprise program. And so we're here today to recommend a rate hearing in a few weeks, and we would like to increase the enterprise rates by 10% and increase the director discretion from the Consumer Price Index of the Denver, Thornton, Aurora area, plus an additional 3%. It's also worth mentioning that I've been working with Michael Murphy from the IT department to put together an operational plan for the enterprise so that in the future we can look at certain market triggers, staffing trends, and make better adjustments on the fly.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you, Megan. Dalen, is there anything you wish to add before we ask questions or make comments?
No, this is just a topic that we wanted to bring to the Board of County Commissioners for really direction and your thoughts as how we move forward. As Casey mentioned, there is a public hearing requirement to do this, and he's worked with the county attorney's office to spell that out. But really just wanted to raise this matter to your attention and seek any direction or thoughts you may have.
Thank you. Let's start with Commissioner Stevens. Do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I do. Thank you for bringing this forward. I understand that CPI doesn't keep up because we, as I testified around property tax earlier, or last year, we're not buying bread and milk, right? And so our costs are very different than the general public's kind of costs, and that's why CPI doesn't always reflect, the kind of increases that we see. And so I totally understand that. Very supportive. We certainly want to recoup our costs, and knowing that we had a net loss, I mean, that's something we want to avoid. So I would support this. My one question is around this is at up to an additional 3% of the previous year. So will you look at that year by year and say, and then is that something that needs to become? I mean, it says it's at your discretion. So will you just let the board know when that's happening, or how will that work? A public hearing wouldn't be required for that piece then, right?
How it works now is we can go up CPI without further board approval, but we do report to the board on an annual basis if we choose to take that increase and what that increase is. So it would be set in basically the same way.
Yeah, that's great. Just so we're, informing the public and that we're aware kind of where we're at. But we definitely want to make sure that we're covering our costs. And so thank you for bringing this forward, and I appreciate the work you do. And we don't like to increase costs, but we need to if our costs are going up. So thank you.
Thanks. Commissioner Shaddock McAnally.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, as you know, I'm a liaison to the Land Stewardship Advisory Board, so we've been having these conversations, and I realize, of course, the costs are not keeping up, and it's also personnel too, to have enough people to do all this, and the cost of living for that, and to have competitive wages for this work. It's really important, and I think people don't understand how critical this is for our communities with invasive species and things. It's really important work. So as you know, I'm one of your biggest fans because I've seen the biodiversity and the changes on the landscape you guys have been able to accomplish. And I think it's certainly important to make sure that we're reflective of helping you keep up with the costs. So I am, as you know, already know, I'm super supportive and would be more, I agree with your recommendations and support them. Thank you.
Well, I have a couple of questions. Don't want you to get off too easy, Casey.
Good.
Good. My first question is, has there been any community engagement on these proposed rate increases other than what you've mentioned, that there'll be some type of required public hearing?
We have engaged with our partners to discuss what these rate increases would look like within our scopes of work and proposals for 2024. We told them to expect a 10% increase so that they could adjust their budgets accordingly, and in anticipation that this will be approved. And then the Land Stewardship Advisory Board. We also do track some of the market costs with other applicators, and this seems to be in the right range.
Thank you for answering my question. Just a little bit more, if I may, and that is, so with these proposed rate increases, 10% this year, how much money do you anticipate generating? And will that recoup the costs that we've not been able to keep up with because of inflationary pressures, et cetera?
Yes. According to our current projections, we should net an additional $60,000 over what our expenses are if we were to go with the 10% increase. I believe that the gross revenue we're looking at is about $800,000 with $740,000 of operating expenses.
And then my final question, who's actually paying these charges? Is it the property owners where we need to go on that land and get a commercial? Who's paying for this? Regular folks or commercial entities?
A lot of them are strategic partners, other land management agencies, nonprofit organizations, folks that work within the two major watersheds in Larimer County that are doing more landscape level restoration and management.
Can you give us an example, please?
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
I have a whole list of examples.
Actually, just one will do.
Okay, the town of Estes Park, we do some contract work from them on an annual basis. And to answer your question earlier, from a private property perspective, we do work with certain owners who have conservation easements or may neighbor open spaces within the community.
Thank you. Thank you for explaining it. So if, for example, someone needs someone to come in and do some type of weed control with a backpack sprayer, then they would be paying the hourly charge. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I put in front of you a packet from our previous Land Stewardship Advisory Board meeting that breaks down the 2023 cost compared with what 2024 would look like with a 10% increase.
Thank you, sir. And based on answering my questions and the discussion, with a little bit of reluctance, I support the direction, but I think it's necessary. So thank you.
Sure.
Anything else, Dalen or colleagues?
I think also we just wanted maybe another good example and something we just wanted to give you a heads up on as well is we did just get a new 5-year contract with the U.S. Forest Service. So that's an entity that we do a lot of work with through our enterprise group. And this is about $170,000 to do work within the Cameron Peak burn scar. And that would represent about 3,500 gross acres of weed management work that we would do over that 5-year period. And that contract will be coming to you on a admin matters consent agenda in the next couple weeks, hopefully. Knock on wood, but fairly soon.
Great. Anything else, Dalen?
No, sir, that was our last item.
Well,
I'll turn it over to
again,
Leslie.
thank you very much. Thank you for your good work, important work. We'll now move on to Leslie, and I think we have a couple other quick things,
Yeah,
updates,
hi.
and all the rest.
Thank you. Leslie Ellis, Community Planning Infrastructure and Resources Director. Rebecca couldn't be here today, but she didn't have any updates that were time sensitive for you today anyway. But she will be giving an update on some of the applications. I know there's been a flurry of emails about different land use development review cases that have come in, and so she will, at one of our upcoming work sessions, just let you know what's been sent out and what's been posted, so that you know when you receive emails, who the case manager is and why you're receiving those emails, so that you can choose how to respond accordingly. So that will be something that she'll share soon. And then just to follow up on the conversation we had last week on Livermore, there is a meeting scheduled now. Jordan Dunn will be sending information out to the folks who participated at the last meeting. This is probably more for folks who might be interested in that. There'll be some information going out. The sheriff's office will participate. The state patrol will participate. Our engineering team will participate, and somebody from CDOT to talk primarily about highway safety issues and traffic and some of the safety-related topics that came up at the last conversation, as well as the US 287 Safety Improvement Plan and the implementation steps that they'll be taking. So that is scheduled on the 27th, next Wednesday at 5:30 at the Community Hall, just for everybody's information about that. And those are really the main two things I wanted to make sure you knew about.
Thanks, Leslie. Colleagues, any questions or feedback or anything? I do have, if I may, not hearing from you all, a quick question regarding community development.
Yes.
So we have an afternoon land use hearing next Monday, as well as an evening one. Are you able to give us like a quick overview of what consent, discussion?
I will have to follow up on that, because I
just
don't
curious.
have information on that. I know there's at least one discussion item on the evening hearing, which is why it's scheduled. And it was posted before there was an opportunity to combine it with the afternoon. I believe the afternoon is consent items, but I am happy to follow up with Jenny and Rebecca on that, just to confirm.
Thank
what
you
to
very much,
expect.
Leslie. Is there
You're
anything
welcome.
else, Leslie?
There's not.
Then at 2:23 p.m., we are adjourned, and thank you to Cassidy back there, down there somewhere.